The wind here is actually really picking up.
Why? Nobody has answered for that.
Imagine that is now taken away from you.
These are the faces of some of the biggest news stories in America.
We want justice!
Where's the compassion?
They need to think about what happened.
George Floyd!
Faces that over time faded from the headlines as attention turned elsewhere. Now we're putting the spotlight back on them.
We have actually reclaimed power and what it means to be Sikh.
Each week, we're traveling to places home to major news stories you may remember.
Everything you work for, just all gone.
And introducing you to people who say it's important you get the full story.
When you have an understanding with a community, people come together.
We're here to support them in this crisis time.
Because we often don't fully learn the impact of an event.
I wanted to say, no, that's not going to represent the America that I grew up in and that I knew.
Until we look at it in hindsight. We're on our way to the Sikh Temple of Wisconsin in the community of Oak Creek, which is just south of Milwaukee. If it sounds familiar, it's because in 2012, a shooter opened fire on this place of worship. 6 people lost their lives on August 5th, 2012. In 2020, a 7th person died from complications related to being shot in the attack. It was an attack fueled by hate and extremism. Good. Perfect. Where were you when it happened?
Squad, I'm taking report of an altercation, Sikh Temple, 7512 South Howell. Need an ambulance. I do not see a shooter anywhere.
I don't know who shot, but there are like many people have been shot.
I have a victim down in the front yard, and they're still hearing shots.
If we can get any further description, if there's an additional shooter.
He shot first 2 people.
One subject is down.
They're locked inside. The people, those got hurt or they are still lying on the floor.
Dispatch, I have people coming out of the church asking for requests. Assistance inside the church.
I don't know anything. My kids are inside.
Very frightening. Very much frightening and very present on the A couple of my friends' moms, fathers are inside there right now, and I'm not sure what's wrong with them and if they're okay.
We're bringing all the wounded out to one area for ambulance pickup.
I wish there was more I could do.
Pardeep Kaleka is a leader in the Sikh community in Wisconsin. On the day of the shooting, he was preparing to go to worship.
So when it was happening, we were right down the street. That morning, my daughter, she's kind of a lollygagger anyways, and so she takes time getting ready, or she's a perfectionist. As we start to leave the house, she tells me, she's like, "Dad, I forgot my notebook." By this time, we're down the street and on the way here already. Thankfully, we turned back around. By the time that we found out about it, I remember getting out of the car and asking the police officer, well, what's going on? Why can't we go down the street? And that's when he told me and notified me that there's been a shooting at the Sikh temple and the scene wasn't secure. And at that time, my heart sunk because I knew both my mother and father were both here. This is just. Right.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm gonna mess your hair up just for a little bit.
No, it's all good.
You'll be all right.
And can you explain a little bit just the importance behind taking shoes off and then wearing a head covering?
Sure. Yeah, just inside temples, most people in the world, every Gurdwara, people take off their shoes and cover their heads for reverence. And then, you know, lots of places in India, you take off your shoes and you actually wash your feet. And then you would go in and, you know, to kind of keep the sanctuary and the cleanliness of the place. Yeah.
Pardeep Kaleka gave us a tour of the Sikh Temple of Wisconsin. Today you won't find many signs of what happened here more than a decade ago, unless you look closely.
So he was basically shooting from back here.
He was in the
He never went inside there.
Yep.
He thought that these two doors were locked.
Okay.
He didn't know they were just open and they closed them. So he was shooting from back here. My father was kind of in this region originally when he got word of what was going on. When Wade Page was inside the main hall, my dad was able to kind of get out here and head down the hallway. And so it was just my father left in here with the other priest in the bathroom. And so this is where he was shot 5 times from point blank range.
If it's okay to ask, I mean,
yeah.
How long did it take for you to be able to even step into this room?
You know, for me, I was able to step into this room about a week and a half afterwards. My mom survived. My dad did not. And I remember the first time walking back into the Gurdwara and people running up to me and saying, "Hey, Pardeep," and like almost in a congratulatory manner. "Hey, Pardeep, we cleaned up the carpets. The blood that was soaked in the carpets is all gone. The bullet holes, we've drywalled over them and this and that. We've essentially cleaned it up." My inward feelings were, why did you clean it up? Do you think we can just move on like that?
We are peace-loving people. We don't want anyone to get hurt. Neither we want our community people to be hurt. So I think we need some awareness in people that we need to respect each other's religion and be very considerate and be loving.
How do you remember that day and where you were when it happened?
There's a couple vivid memories that I have of that day. One of those vivid memories is my daughter running inside the house and grabbing this little red notebook, and there's just the joy on her face. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, like, just hurry up, let's go. But that day, for some reason, turning around and prioritizing my daughter and my kids is what saved our life. I nearly lost my mother. I lost my father. We were just a little bit early. I would have lost, maybe I could have lost both of my kids. And I look at my 2 children now. One, now is going off to college, and the other one is in high school. I think they know it. Right? They know that Dad changed from that day. They're much better for it. We're much better for it, but it still saddens us to our core that they can never speak with their grandfather again. There's a few women who were just kind of late in getting over there, and he must have thought that that was an exit because it looks like it goes out, but they were actually sitting ducks in there. If he would have gone inside, he could have killed every one of them. My mother was one of those women that was hiding in that closet. And I think that Wade Page, if you look here, as that's all kind of happening, he saw Lieutenant Murphy responding, the police officer. You can see him in almost a full sprint back to his truck, his pickup truck. And as he's on his way to the pickup truck, he's trying to get there. But then Lieutenant Brian Murphy pulls up and just confronts Wade Page, and they both engage in a firefight against each other.
Lieutenant Brian Murphy was shot more than a dozen times. His response helped slow the gunman, who ultimately took his own life during a gunfight with police.
And emotionally, I feel very good, especially with the support of my family and my wife, the Sikh community, and the city of Oak Creek. All those things have helped me to get better a lot quicker.
Lieutenant Murphy received a Public Safety Officer Medal of Valor for his actions. His story inspired Sikhs nationwide. Multiple charities raised money to help with his recovery. 2 California Sikhs donated $50,000 each.
That Sunday was a day that was beautiful. Typically a great August day, sunshine. And I came home and I was actually sitting in a chair in my family room, and my phone started lighting up. The police chief, John Edwards, who is a lifelong friend of mine, as was the fire chief, who said, yeah, there's a shooting, it's serious, and Officer Murphy's involved.
Steve Scafidi was the mayor of Oak Creek on the day the Sikh temple was attacked. Do you have any, I don't know if regrets away, but I mean... Yeah,
I have regrets.
You do?
Yeah, sure. I said one of them earlier. I should have been more diligent in meeting everyone that I was the mayor of, right? They had been here for a while, the Sikh Temple of Wisconsin. They had been here for a while. Good neighbors, but I didn't know them. Even in the midst of that day, they were already worried about how we were doing. They asked me how I was doing. I had just showed up. You had just undergone a mass shooting. They were asking how we were doing. The compassion in the Sikh faith is unmatched.
Now, more than a decade later, after that day, what sticks out to you?
The people is what stuck out to me.
Tom Durian is a longtime reporter and anchor at Scripps News Milwaukee. He responded to the temple to cover the story.
They wanted us to understand their religion. You know, this is in 2012. It's closer to 9/11 than we are today. I was in the middle of just doing a live broadcast, and one of my colleagues kind of pushed a woman in who was dressed in the Sikh attire, and she was telling me, I remember that morning, I feel like this is a case of mistaken identity. Not that that excuses it, but that they thought we were somebody else.
From 2011 to 2022, domestic extremism was linked to 26 mass killing incidents. Of those, 10 were linked to white supremacy, including the shooting in Oak Creek. When did you find out the circumstances of it and who did it and his background? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I was still sitting in this office watching the Twitter feed, and as I saw it, there wasn't any mention of white nationalism, but I just had this like gut feeling. I had a gut feeling that I had something to do with this.
Arnold Michaelis was a Wisconsin teenager when he first joined the White Power movement. In the late 80s and early 90s, he fronted a White Power band and helped form one of the largest white supremacist groups in America. He had left that life behind by the time of the shooting in 2012, but when he saw the news reports, he felt compelled to speak.
I live in Milwaukee, and this is in my backyard, but also because there was a time in my life when I practiced the hate and violence that was the raw material behind this shooting.
I think what's super poignant about the August 5th, 2012 shooting that happened here is that the Sikh community defied hate. They defied hate on that day by refusing to reflect it. And the Sikh community stood up from when the gun smoke was still in the air. The Sikh community stood up and said, that's not what we're about. And we're not gonna let hate destroy us. We're not going to reflect this hate.
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's up, Kalika?
Hey.
Good, man. That may have helped, actually.
You look good, man.
No, it's laying weird. I drove here with the windows down, of course, and all right. We do that for each other.
You know, when Arno and I first met, I reached out to him via email, and then we spoke on the phone, and then we decided to meet in person.
Was that a difficult meeting?
Oh,
like
yeah.
knowing his background and what you had been through?
Yeah, it was very difficult. It was a very difficult meeting, and you know, I think part of me wanted to get answers. Part of me wanted to figure out why the shooter did what they did.
Like, I didn't know what to say, I didn't know how to respond, but I did know that it was my obligation to be there to serve not just Pardeep, but his family and the Sikh community as best I could.
And so when we took that step towards one another and just really talk about our lives and our daughters and our fathers and our growing up, you know, in America, it gave me kind of the answers for what I needed to kind of go forward.
Pardeep invited Arno to speak at the Sikh Temple of Wisconsin. Eventually, they would work together as part of Parents for Peace, helping young people break free from extremism.
You know, Pardeep will get face-to-face on Zoom with some really hostile, broken, mean, angry kid who's getting into white nationalism, and he's, hey, I'm Pardeep, you know, I'd love to hear more about your views. And eventually Pardeep gets to a point where he's like, you know, we've been talking a long time, and I just gotta tell you, you know, I respect you and you are my friend, but I'm concerned because I got 4 kids and they all look like me. You know, and the kid's like, well, no, I wouldn't, I would never hurt your kids, Pardeep. Okay, but what about my cousin's kids? What about all the people I pray with? And I mention all this because this applies to everyone. It doesn't apply to just violent extremists. Listen to people, especially if they don't agree with you, because you're opening up a connection for them to see somebody who doesn't think like them and to see your humanity. And that's eventually how we can change hearts and minds.
Arno has been a huge part of my healing. And I called him and I said, thank you. And he's like, for what? I'm like, thank you. You've been not only, you know, my friend, my brother, but this is from a therapist, right? You've been also my therapist. And you've given me back to my family. And you've given me back to my kids. And that I don't know how I would have been able to get there without you.
Thanks, man.
And so now, you know, 11 years later, I have not seen many people reference in manifestos Wade Page and what he's done. And people oftentimes ask me, why is it that you say his name? Why don't you just use shooter?
I was going to ask that myself, because it's even saying it, I feel wrong even saying it in a place like this, but you use it pretty common in conversation.
Yeah, and I think that there's a different responsibility for media to not use any of these shooters' names, to give them more, you know, I guess it's more recognition. Right? For me, it's important for our community to be able to say his name because it's a reclamation of power. The 10th anniversary, my daughter, you know, she was 6 when the shooting happened. She's 16 at this time. And what she says to me, Dad, I want to say a spoken word at the 10-year remembrance in front of everybody. And I'm going to speak to Wade Page.
No title is bigger than Dad. So I want to introduce my daughter. Amherst, come save your dad up here.
Did you know what the poem was going to be? Like, did you get like a
I kind of knew what
screened it before it was?
Yeah, I kind of knew.
Yeah.
But then you also kind of like worry about the delivery And she gets up and she delivers it, and she speaks directly to the Wade pages of the world.
He took away someone's child, someone's mother, someone's father, someone's husband, someone's wife. He took away our dada.
And her last words were so succinct and clear.
I do forgive you, though. You are not a monster. You were just in pain, and I wish somebody would have told you. Your anger was fueled with a gun instead. You are hurt, so you hurt people. For I am not your enemy, you are. Thank you.